Good evening and welcome. Okay, so first of all, you will see on your screen there's a Q&A icon, and if you have any questions, if you could enter them in the Q&A section as we go along, and then I'll answer the questions at the end of the webinar. In addition, there you should find another icon, which is a group chat icon. If you could find that and just enter your name so I know who's viewing, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Okay, so let's get on. Okay, what we're going to cover today, I hope you can all hear me, is installing the Impact CMS system, creating a database, setting up the basic system and securing it, setting up a new client, creating an editable text area, create a login panel, create an editable image. We'll look at some of the control panel options and where things are stored, and then we'll take questions at the end. Now, for this webinar, I'm using the version 4.2, which isn't in public release yet, but everything works in the same way. And rather than you sit there watching me upload the WPP's 1,000-odd files, I've already uploaded the WPP to the server. So that's obviously one of the items you have to do to install the system, and that is to upload the WPP to the server. Okay, so let's get started, and let's look at first creating the database. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is to create a blank database in your control panel, your host control panel. So go to your host control panel and log in. And then once you're logged into your control panel, all control panels will look slightly different, but they will all have a similar process. So first of all, we need to create a database. So we go to My SQL Databases, and we need to select a name for our database. So we're going to call it Data BC. Then we click Create Database, and the database has now been created. Now you'll see that some hosts will add a prefix onto the name that you select. So in this case, we've got Impact CM underscore and then the database name that we selected. So you just need to be aware of that and make sure that you do pick up the full names. Okay, so now we're going to need that later, so we will save the details. So we'll save that in Notepad. So there's the name of our database. Okay, so now we have a name, we need to add a user to be able to access the database. So now we come down to the Add New User. So we're going to give the name User. We'll call it Users, and we need to set a password. Now I recommend that you use just letters and numbers, because the special characters can cause issues. So we now have a password. So we need to copy that password, and as we'll need it later, so we'll put that into our notepad. Okay, so now we're going to use that password and create the user. Okay, the user has been created. So again, we're going to need that username later. So we'll copy that. And we'll put that into our notepad. So we now got the user and the password. Okay, so now we need to add that user to the database. So database users, sorry, the users are going to add to the database C. So we add it to the database and we give it all privileges and make changes. Okay, so now we go back and we can see we have our new database C, data BC, and user impact CM users. So once again, some hosts will add the prefix to the name that you pick. So we'll just be aware of that. So we now have our database. Okay, so now we can go to now we've published our impact CMS control panel to a folder called Impact CMS. So now we go to the setup PHP, and we need to set the enter the setup key. Okay, so now we need to enter the details for our database. Now most hosts, this will be the database location will be localhost. However, some will require either an IP address or a URL type address, like SQL server at so-and-so, so-and-so. So now we need to enter the username. So we pick the username from our notepad and we enter that. And now we need the password. So we enter that. And then we need the database name. So we enter that. Now once we've entered those, we need to test the connection to make sure the connection is okay. So we click the test connection button. And we have two OKs. The first OK checks that we're logged in correctly, and the second OK creates a temporary file in the database and then deletes it to make sure we've got the correct access to the database. So okay, so now we've entered the details, we can get the system to write the database connection file, and in this case it's created successfully. So we click continue. Now we enter the URL of our control panel. So that is a bit before the setup here. So we enter that and we take out the www. Okay. Then the email for your site. Now this must be an email that is set up on the domain, otherwise your host won't send the emails when necessary. Okay, then we'll give the site a name, so we'll call it Impact CMS Demo, and we shouldn't need to change the bottom. login page. So click continue, and now once again the file's been created successfully. So click continue, and now the basic impact CMS tables are created, and you should see successfully after each one of those messages. Now that creates just the basic tables. If you're not using the standard system, the original system, if you're using the Pro or the Pro Plus, or you're upgrading, then some more tables will be created later. However, if you're using the basic system, then all the tables have now been created. So we click continue, and now everything has been completed correctly, so we can go to the system login. Now the first time you go to the login, as I said before, if you're using Pro or Pro Plus, you will now get some additional tables created, or if you're upgrading from a previous version. So you just have to say OK to those. All of these should be successful messages. Any error messages, then there is an issue. So just click OK on each one, and now we're there at the login. So we can now log in with the default password and username. So it's admin, and the default password is in your manual. And we're logged in successfully, and we're now at the main menu. Okay, the first thing you want to do after you've set up your system is to change some passwords. So first of all, we'll change the admin user password. So log in as admin, select change password, enter the default password and your new password, and repeat it. And the password has been changed. Okay, the second thing you want to do is to set up a new setup key so that nobody else who knows the default key can modify your system. So click modify setup key, enter your new setup key, and now your system is secure. Okay, so now we've got the control panel set up on our PC. We can now set up our client or clients and the users. So first of all, let's set up a client. So go to manage clients, and we need a client ID. I suggest you use the auto, as it will always give you a unique ID. The client's email address, and the client's company, their first name and their last name. Now, if you want to use the automatic billing system so that you can bill your clients for the use of your CMS system on a monthly, quarterly or yearly basis, then you set the billing cycle in here. So we'll set this for monthly, and we'll say it's $1.99 a month, and we'll come to the how that works very shortly. So the country and the website's URL. So we're going to use one I've already set up, which is Microsoft Conference Test 2. And note there's no wwws in the name, and always has a trailing slash on the end. Now you can also set the address and so on if you wish, Let's just set anything in here. These are optional. And telephone number if you wish, and postcode, and mobile phone number if you wish. So let's add that client. The client's been added, and it now appears just below. And we'll come to the other bits here, like plus pages, shortly. Okay, so we've set up the client. Now we need to set up some users for that client so that they can access the system. So we'll set one up. Let's set the first one up as Steve R. It's a password testing, first name, and this can be the same as the client details. And if this is the main account holder, then we select option 2. If it's an additional user for the client, then we select option 3. Now option 2 will allow them to see payment details, etc., for their account. Option 3 will not. It will hide some of the client information from the user. The administrator is only for the system administrator, so do not use that for any client. And then the client ID that this user is attached to, and as we've only got one at the moment, it will be that one. So we will add that user. So now we have the user set up in the system. They can now access the system to edit their pages, etc. So that's the client and the user set up. Now we need to set up our PayPal parameters for accepting payments directly from the client. We can use the sandbox to test. If you have a sandbox account, you set the sandbox email address in there, and you set the live email address in there for the live payments. You can select the currency that is set up in your PayPal account, any of the currencies that are available, and the currency symbol. And when entering those, you enter the HTML code, not the keyboard code. So for pound, you could enter and pound, and when you refresh the page, you will see that's now being converted to the pound symbol. There we go. Okay, so now what we'll do is we will log out, and we'll log in as the client so that we can set up our monthly payments. So we'll log out. Okay, now we'll log in as the client. Whoops. Go to the client menu. Okay, now we're in the client menu. So if we go to My Details, you can now see all the details we entered for the client. And you'll also see that because we've entered a bill cycle and an amount, just here, we get a message at the bottom about our services. So as the main account owner, you can set up the payments to be collected automatically. To set up your monthly payments of $1.99 each on or around the 28th day of the month, click the button on the right. So we click the button, all the forms, etc., are created automatically. So we will connect to the PayPal gateway. Remember, we're currently using our sandbox account, but exactly the same thing happens when it's live. So there we go. Monthly fees for Impact CMS Demo has picked up the name from when we entered the parameters earlier. $1.99 a month for the first month, and $1.99 for each month. So now we will sign in to make the payment. There we go, and it confirms the payment. and the balance to agree and pay. Your payment has been completed, and it will now redirect us back to the site, thanking us for our payment. Okay, so let's go back to client's site. And log in. Oops. And look at our details, and now we see the box has changed. Your payments have been set up to be automatically collected via PayPal monthly. Payments of £1.99 each month on or around the 29th day of each month. And you will see that the PayPal transaction number has now been filled in, and the start date 29th/6th 2015. Okay, so we have our control panel set up. Now we want to add some editable areas to our client site. So let's go to a client site. So here's our client site. So the first thing we need to do is to add 3 folders through File Manager. They need to come off the root of the client site. So the first folder is JS. Second folder is images, and the third folder is etc. Okay, so they've been added. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to open up the asset. So we can choose the asset, whether we want the toggle button, the slider, the round, etc. So in this case we'll use this, the toggle. Okay, so now you can see we have 5 components in the asset, and the first one we want is the on-off toggle button. So we drag that onto the page where we want it. The on-off button here will not display on the client's page unless the client is logged in to do edits. So underneath the edit control you'll see an HTML fragment. So we'll open up the HTML fragment, and this is where we need to enter some details. If you're going to add Google fonts to your page, then you would normally add them here with the normal link rel, which we'll cover later. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to enter our client ID into the area here. So we can go to our control panel, manage clients, and we can pick up our client ID from there. So we'll paste that there. Now we need to declare how many edit areas that we have on this page, and for the time being we're just going to add 1, so we'll leave that at the default 1. If you're going to add a text area and an image, or a text area, an image and a slider, then that would be 2 or 3. So then the host URL. This is the host URL of our control panel. So we require that, which is here. So we will enter that in here. So no www and with a trailing slash. Then we need the domain that's on, which is obviously just the first piece of that. and this time without a trailing slash, again without the www. So we have our control panel URL, and we have the domain that it sits on. The next thing we need is the client URL. So that's the URL of our client site, and that we have here. So we enter that in there. And again, without the www and with a trailing slash. Then we also need the page name, as we can see here. So we enter that into there. If you have any Google fonts installed on your page, then you need to enter them in the array here, and it tells you here how to enter the fonts that you've added to your page. This then allows them to be added to the main editor. Now the next thing is allow client to view or edit the source of the editor. That's the main editor. I suggest you leave that on no. You don't really want the client playing around with the source code. And then you can change the language in the CK editor. Now you can change the language of the spell checker. That's the spell checker as you type, or the normal spell checker, web spell checker. And you can also change the language of the prompts in the editor. So if you're in France or Germany or Belgium or wherever, you can change the language to suit your clientele. And then finally, there's the alternative save method. This is a new item that will only be found in version 4.4 onwards, and that is to get around some issues with Lightspeed servers, which are like an enhanced Apache server, or any server where it will not allow long URLs. And normally you would leave this set to no, but if you're on a Lightspeed, you'll definitely need to set it to yes, and you may need to set it to yes with some other servers. For HostGator hosts, there is some other issues, but they are taken care of now automatically in the new asset. So there should not be any issues now with HostGator. Okay, so we've set up that. So click OK. So we now have our control panel. So what we're going to do is on this particular page, we're going to set up this area here, text area, as an editable text area. So the first thing we do is change the ID of the area. So we'll change it to editable 1. If this was the second editable area on the page, then it would be editable 2, and so on. But the total number must match the number we declared in the HTML fragment. And we must make sure that the export ID for this object is set to always. Okay, then we view the HTML for the text area. And where the add code here is, we add class equals text, as this is a text area. So that's the area set up. There's one final thing we need to do, and we need to take the second part of the asset, drag it onto the page, and this will add the save and edit buttons and status. So there we are, and the buttons have changed color to match the scheme of your page or your website. As you can see, it's used scheme code 3 for the save and edit buttons, and this will only depend on if you've set your color scheme in the color scheme color schemes in the Web Plus document. Okay, so then finally we just need to change the IDs of these. So for the status area, we select ID anchor and we change it to status 1, so it matches the editable 1. And again, make sure it's set to always. On the Save button, we need to go to Edit button and ID Anchor, and we need to change the Save to Save One. Again, check Always. And finally, the Edit button, the ID needs to be fEdit1, and again, Always. The reason it's fEdit1 and not just Edit1 is because edit is a keyword used in some of the scripts. So click OK. So now our page is set up for one editable text area. So if we publish that to the web, okay, so now let's go to our site, refresh. Okay, so you can see now we have the normal view of the page, and there was the content that was in our WPP here. So we can see that is the same content. Okay, so now because we're logged into our control panel, the editing button automatically appears. So we can now click Edit. There we go. So we switched editing on, and now when we click in the text area, and you'll notice the text area shows you which area is editable, you get a blue dotted line. Now we can either edit that directly within the area, okay, and then click Save, and we get data saved successfully. Or we can edit it within the full editor. Now you see we can do lots of different things. We can change the font. Let's choose Tahoma and the size 12. We could bold some text and so on and so forth. And we could even add a hyperlink. So we now have a hyperlink, and we'll click Save. Again, we get data saved successfully, and as now you can see we've got the hyperlink and the bold text and the client edit content. Also, because the text may be a little bit too long, a fancy scroll bar is automatically added to the text area. Now we can't click the hyperlink while we're in edit mode, so if we switch the edit off, you can now see that the hyperlink is there, and the bold, and as I say, the scroll bar automatically appears. Okay, so that's how easy it is to add a text area. Now one other thing, while we're here, we'll look at the editor, the full editor, and you'll see some of the features in the full editor. We can apply styles, so we could have, say, this in a special container like that. We can apply italics, subscript, superscript, etc. Remove the format, select all, spell checker here, so we can enable the spell check as you type, and or we can just use the normal web spell checker. In addition, we can insert an anchor. We can paste from words, retaining the words format, and insert bullet lists, etc., and dividers and quotes. Now you can also change the color of the text and the color of the background, and you can print this document as is. Now in addition, you can insert a table, a horizontal line, a page break for printing, special symbols, wrap code around it, wrap code. If it's some code in the text, you can stop it from executing the code and just display the code. And there's also a help section which tells you what all the buttons do. Okay, so in addition to that, you've got a backup facility. The editor will automatically back up intervals what is in the editor, so at any time you can always go back to what was in the editor at any specific date or time. Now this is saved within the browser's cache, so from time to time you need to empty the cache, otherwise it will get a little bit clogged up. So once you're happy that you're not going to use previous edit, you can just clear the backup set. Okay, so if we save that now, you see we've got our special area just displaying there. Okay, so that's the text area. Now here comes a interesting addition, and that is if in the original, so the client has updated his site as you've just seen. Now the original content in the WPP is still as it was. Now you may want to do some changes to that, and you just may want to re-upload the WPP. So if you re-upload the WPP, with most CMS systems, you would then lose all the client's edits, and it will go back to what was in the WPP. However, with Impact CMS, you will see that we have republished the page, but the page has retained the client's edit. Now it may be that you want to make the content of the WPP the new content and ignore the client's edits, and it's very easy to do. All you do is go to your control panel, go to admin, go to view client edit areas, select the client, and now this is the edited area, and we can view what's in there. So this is the edit that the client did. Now we can reset that area, and you can tell which area it is. It's editable area 1 on the index HTML page. We can delete the content that the client has edited. Okay. Then if we go back to the client page and refresh, you'll see now the original content is back on the client's site. So at any time you can reset it back to the WPP content. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is, you probably wouldn't want your clients all to log in via the control panel. You'd probably want to provide them with a login panel either on your own site or on their site. Now, you would want that to blend in with their site or with your site if you're going to put one on your site. So you can create a login panel. In fact, you can create as many login panels as you like with different color schemes, different sizes, different shapes, different text, and so on, so that they can log in without having to go to the control panel. So let's create a login panel to put on our client site. So when we go into the create login panel, you will see you get previews of what it's going to look like. So first of all, you give it the panel a name. So we'll call this client login demo. Okay, and it shouldn't have any spaces or special characters in it. As soon as you click out of it, it will check to see if that name's already in use. If it's not, so it's okay, then you'll get a tick in the little box there. If it did already exist, then the tick wouldn't appear and you would have to choose a different name. So then we select what width we want our login panel. So in this case, we're going to make it 180 pixels wide, and we're going to make it 220 long. Now you'll see some of the text doesn't fit, but we'll sort that in a second. So we want the background color to be white to blend in with our site. You can also make it transparent if you wish. But as I say, in this case, we're going to make it white. Okay. The color of the title text you can change, but in this case, let's make it a nice dark blue. Somewhere there. There we go. So that's a nice dark blue, believe it or not. Then the user prompt text color, you can change that as well. And you can do that either by copying another code from somewhere else, or you can use the picker to pick the code. Did it work? Yeah, that's it. 364. Okay, and the additional notes color you can also change. You can change the color of the border if you wish, and the border width. So let's make it a little bit wider. There we go. And the title, you can change the text. So you could say just have a CMS login. And we can change the font. And we can change the title font size, so we'll make that 12. And we can change the lost password size to 8 and the notes font to 10. There we go. So now everything fits nicely. Okay, so then if you want to add any notes at the bottom, something like this is a closed system. Why isn't that? There we go. So we'll make it a little bit shorter. There we go. So now it fits. Okay, so then you can then decide whether you want the editing control panel link to show, or whether you want it to show go to my menu. That will then go to the customized pages within control panel. And then if you want to add any other notes, you can add them at the bottom. If you don't want any, just simply remove them. And we'll add that control panel or login panel. So that login panel has now been created. So if we go back, we can get the code for that panel. So login, whoops, wrong button. Let's go back. Sorry about that. Let's go to view edit login panels. Okay, so we want to get the code. So there is the code for our login panel. So we copy that, and we need to create an HTML fragment 220 by 260. So we go to our page and we insert an HTML fragment. Paste to body. And that was a good guess, 220 by 260, that's near enough. So we put that there. Okay, so now we can publish that to the web. And if we go back to the page and refresh, there we go. You can see we now have our login panel. As we're already logged into the admin panel, it says that we're admin, so we'll log out and we'll log in as the user, so, or as the client. There we go, we've been just logged in, so we can now edit pages on our site. So now when we come on, you'll see that the edit button comes up. So we can now do editing as we would normally. Alternatively, we could go to our menu and then we're into the customized control panel menu. Okay, so now we're going to add an editable image to our client page. So we will go to the About Us page and we're going to make this image editable. And to do that, we look at the HTML source for this image, and on the preamble, we overtype it with div id equals editable 1 class equals image, and over the postamble we close the divider. Okay, so we have divider ID editable 1 class image equals image, and we close the divider. Next, we need the control unit on the page. So we will copy it from the home page to save entering it all over again. And we just need to edit in the HTML. We still have just one editable area. All the other information here is the same. The client ID, the URLs. We just need to change the page file name, which is now About Us. Then we drag our edit controls onto the page. So we change the ID of that, because it's editable 1, it's status 1. The save button is save 1, and the edit button is edit 1. So now we publish that page. Okay. So now let's go Let's log in as the client. And go to the About Us page. And now we see our Einstein, and that image is now editable. Now, because you don't want clients to put an image in that's not going to fit the space allocated, when we come to replace the image, it will allow us to crop the image in the same proportions as the original image. And then we'll adjust the image to that size so that it fits exactly in the space allocated. So let's edit this image. Okay, now we can either click the upload button and select it via the file browser, or we can drag an image into the box. So what we're going to do is drag an image into the box, and we're going to use Teresa here. So we drag her into the box. I've got it picked up from the wrong place. There we go. I missed it. Okay, so Teresa now uploads and we get the crop image. As you can see, the crop area is always the same size or same proportions as the original image. So we can adjust it to get the bit of the image that we want, and then the image has been replaced. So now we have the new image on the page, and if we refresh the page, you will see the new image. So let's have a look at some of the other features in Control Panel. We have the optimized database. This will keep your tables nice and clean and get rid of any overheads that there may be on the database, which build up from time to time. As you can see, it automatically updates every table. So that's the first option. The second option is to back up the database. And in version 4.2, there's a new version of the backup, because with some servers, the hosts disable the system commands. So the previous database backup used the system command. This new version now uses a customized backup that I've written the new code for, so it should work on all servers. So it's backed up the database, and it gives you the file name of the database there, or the backup, and it tells you where it's stored on your server, both the physical path and the web path. Now you should download the backup file immediately you've created it, and the backup will start automatically. So it'll take a few seconds here because of Download Manager. Here we go. So okay, so the download is complete. Now, once you've downloaded the backup, you should delete it immediately from your server, because you don't want to leave the backups of your database sitting on your server. So the second option is to delete the backup file. And we now have the backup of our web server stored on our hard drive. We can then use that if necessary at any time to go back and completely rebuild the database. It contains all the structure and data stored in the database. So let's go back to the admin. You also have the option of backing up any uploaded images that your clients have added to multi-areas and images and light boxes, etc. And to back them up, you just simply click backup uploaded images, and all uploaded images are then backed up, and it tells you which folder that they've been backed up to. You can do the reverse of this and restore the uploaded images at any time as well. We've already covered the modularized setup key. You can also back up your system settings. That will back up your database connection file and your system parameters. And again, that's a very simple procedure. One click and it tells you where it's backed them up to. Okay, you can delete a client completely. I won't do that now because we've got our test data in. But when you delete the client, that will not only delete the client details from the client's page, but it will also delete all users attached to that client and any data in the database for any sites or any pages of that client. It will also delete the photo book galleries for that client as well. Okay, so that's basically all the other features there. And you can create news and events panels for your clients and client shops. I won't go through the setting those up. They're pretty straightforward and everything's in your manual as well. And the same with the photo galleries. Then a new feature which is coming in version 4.2, and that is additional plugins. And when you click on that, any plugins that have been installed in addition to the standard features of the Impact CMS will appear on this page. This is just a dummy one. This is one of the next features to come for Impact CMS, and that's a guest book panel. Okay, so let's go back to admin home. Okay, the other thing you can do is edit the site pages as if you're a client, and to do that you emulate the client. So it pretends that you're the client, and now we can edit the client's pages in Control Panel. You could also edit them directly on the client's site. I've just gone to the wrong one, haven't I? Edit site pages we should have gone to. Okay, it just reminds you which client you're emulating, and then you can select the page that you want to edit, and it will open within the control panel. After a few seconds, when it realizes you're logged in, you will get the on-off button, and you can then edit that as you would normally do on the client side. The client help pages are quite extensive, and they give your client, which your client will normally see this from the customized client panel, client area, and it gives them help on all the different editing areas, so they know how they have to perform their edits. How to edit an image and so on, how to edit a video, etc. Okay, so that's the overview then of the admin. Have a look at where the files are stored, or the upload files are stored on your Impact CMS system. And to do that, we'll have a look at them in FileZilla. We're already logged in, and in this case our Impact CMS system is installed here in CMS Work. The first thing we'll look at is the backup files, and if you back up your system settings, they will be placed in a folder called Backups System Settings, and if you back up the images, they will be saved in a Backups Images folder in the same place, just here. Okay, if you have Impact CMS Pro Plus, then you have photo book options, and if you've installed a photo book for a client, a folder will be created called FB followed by the client name or client ID, and the photos are stored in a folder called Photos. Seems a bit logical, doesn't it? So that's where the photos are saved that are uploaded by your client. There's additional files that are placed in there by the photo book system, which contain the details of the photo, so the description and so on. And if you have any galleries, separate galleries, like in this case there's one called Landscapes, a file will be placed in there to tell it that the photo that's in the main directory is also in the Landscapes directory or a Landscapes gallery. And the thumbnails that are automatically created by the photo book system are stored in the thumbs folder, as you can see there. Okay, so then the next thing is any images uploaded into an editable image or an editable lightbox image or into a multi-area will be stored in images uploads, and again they will be prefixed with the client ID, so they're easily identifiable as to which client they belong to. Also, it means that if two clients both upload an image with the same name, then it will remain unique within the folder and won't overwrite the other client's image. Okay, so then we come to PDFs. And any PDFs that are uploaded into the editable PDF area, they will be stored here in PDF, and the image that's created of the PDF, the first page of the PDF, will be stored in PDF image. Now, panels, any news or events images will be stored in the event images folder beneath the user panels. If it's a news item, it will be prefixed with N followed by the client ID. Again, this avoids any duplications. And if it's an event image, it will be E followed by the client ID. This also means that the client can upload the same image to an events panel as they do to a news panel if they wish, without any duplication. And product images for the shop are stored in the product images folder, and that's preceded by a P followed by the client ID. Okay, let's just have a look, see if we've now got any questions. I've got a question there from John. When will we be updating Microsoft's site with details on how to upgrade from Pro to Pro Plus? The details are all within the Pro Plus pack, which tells you how to upgrade from Pro to Pro Plus, or from the basic system to Pro or Pro Plus, and also how to update a system lower than version 4 to 4.2. and all users of Impact CMS Pro and Pro Plus for X7 and X8 will, within the next few days, be receiving an email from me with details of how to get your version 4.2 free. And obviously, as I say in there, it does tell you how to update to version 4.2, which is slightly different because it now uses in 4.2 SQLi instead of SQL, so it's compatible with PHP 7. So you do need to run one small part of the setup again when you update to version 4.2. So I hope that's answered your question, John. There's one with no question in it, so we'll answer that one. If anybody else got any other questions? Okay. So as I said before, you'll get a free upgrade to 4.2 very soon. I've just got a few little bits to finish off on the X7 versions of Pro and Pro Plus. And as you have seen in the demonstration, the 4.2 looks very similar to the previous versions with just some additional code and features. Okay, so if we look at what the available versions now, we've got the original version, the Impact CMS Pro, the Pro Plus, and we've got the mobile app for Pro and the mobile app for Pro Plus. We've got the Pro Pack complete with the mobile app and the Pro Plus pack with the mobile app, and there's now the new mobile sync asset. Now what that does is if you have a mobile site as well as a fixed site, then when you update your main site, your mobile site obviously has to then be done manually. However, you may have some common areas within the two. So you may have a text area on the main site that is also on the mobile site, and an image again that is on both sites. With the mobile sync, what happens is you can add a small asset to the mobile page and the editable area, and then when the editable area is updated on the main site, it will automatically update on the mobile site. And the mobile area for the text can be a different size and shape to the main site, although obviously it has to be able to contain as much text, but it can be a different size. So if you've got a very wide area on your main site, wide text area that you obviously need to narrow down for your mobile site, you can do that and make it longer, and then when the main site is updated, the mobile site will automatically update at the same time. Saves you doing two edits. Okay. Got another question there from John. To restore a database from a backup, the backup file that you made, you would then have to go into your client's or your host's control panel, and in the database section, you would go to PHP admin, my admin, and then within that you can import that that backup file that you created in Impact CMS. You can then import that into the database in PHP my admin, and it will automatically create the tables and add all the data that was originally there into the database. I hope I've explained that properly for you. If not, drop me an email and I'll give you further details of exactly how to do it. Okay, so if there's no more questions, we'll just look at one other thing, and that is anybody who's watching that's not got Impact CMS at all. There's a special offer for anyone who watches the webinar. So you can get some discount if you're watching the webinar. Also, anybody who has the original CMS and wants to upgrade to Pro or Pro Plus, or someone who has Pro and wants to upgrade to Pro Plus, just drop me a note and I will do a special deal to upgrade from one to the other. Okay, so then you can find out all details of all the items available for Impact CMS in the Microsoft Store, and coming up shortly will be CMS Event 3, where we're going to look at the Pro Plus mobile app, how to install it, and it's very simple, and how clients can use it to edit their site content. Again, it has to be simple for clients to use, and the date and time of that will be advised. I'll also be running another seminar somewhere, another webinar, I call them seminars, at some stage to take you through some of the more complex editable areas such as videos, sliders, images in light boxes, and so on. So keep an eye out for those coming up, and I hope you've enjoyed the presentation, and I hope it went a little bit better than the last one. And thank you for watching. Have a good evening or afternoon or whatever it is where you are, and hopefully we'll speak to you again soon. Thanks for watching.